Good afternoon. I'd like to call the Finance, Audit, Tendering, and Administration Committee December 6th meeting to order at 3:30. I believe, understand Mayor Brown will be, I believe, joining us, but we have quorum, so we're good to go. So order of business, number one, call to order. And number two, declarations of conflict of interest. Are there any conflicts of interest? No? No conflicts of interest. Number three, approval of agenda. I have a motion to approve the agenda. Move, seconded by Councillor Drang. Thank you. Adoption of minutes to November 8, 2023 minutes. Is there any discussion on the minutes of that November 8th meeting or issue that any committee member has on those minutes? Okay, we have a motion that the minutes of the November 8th, 2023 be adopted as circulated. So moved. Councillor McCabe, seconded by Councillor Drang. And number five, business arising from those minutes. Was there any issue from that? Or business arising? No. Great. Moving along. Number six, discussions and reports. Okay, and number one, fortunate to have Kent Hudson here from the Community Foundation of PEI proposal follow-up. And I think, as the committee well remembers, there was some discussion around a dynamic that your foundation is interested in having the facility or having the city be a partner with, and you know, I think from that meeting, Ken, as you probably realize, or it's been communicated to you, it was probably just wanted a little more perhaps clarity on mechanics and what have you. So pass on to you for a bit of elaboration on your part. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. If I shout into this, just let me know. Thank you for inviting me here today to follow up on, I guess, what was brought forward previously. Each of you have now received a few slides in a presentation. I think the biggest thing is the very first page talks about what we do. Intermediary partnerships is what I'm referring to in this case, and that's, I'll get into a little bit more detail. Very, very briefly, what are we, the Community Foundation? We are an organization that mostly helps other people give to charity. So they don't usually give to us, they give through us. And this is a perfect example. So slide 3, I'm not going to go through these in great detail, but as a charity, we are only permitted at the Community Foundation of PEI to provide grants and contributions to charities and qualified donees. So if you're simply a nonprofit, we can't flow money directly to you. That is changing. CRA has changed that policy, and we are permitted to do it as long as it fits within our objects and purposes. In this case, sometimes we use an intermediary partnership, and those would be all qualified donees. In this case, the city, acting as a representative of government, is a qualified donee. So we can easily write you grants and contributions, and you, if it fits within your guidelines, could hand those off to non-qualified donees. And I'll explain a little bit more. I'll give you a sample of an existing fund. So I am flipping to page 3, slide 6. We were the host partner for the Charlottetown Library Learning Center Capital Campaign Fund. So if you made a contribution to the library, generally speaking, it came to us. That agreement first started as an intermediary partnership. It was a 3-way partnership because downtown Charlottetown was the leader of that. They are not a qualified donee. They are not a registered charity. So CADC, in this case, became the partner that we would write checks to. Simply stated, people give us money, We give them a charitable tax receipt. We then flow the money to CADC, who would then pay for the library. Basically, they were the partner in it. So we couldn't use downtown Charlottetown as the agreement kind of to flow money through. So we needed an intermediary partnership. So that's one that exists. And we've probably done, 20 of these in the last couple of years. So we're getting good at them. I'm going to give you just a couple of samples of potential funds. First one being Haviland Club. It's a property that sits in Charlottetown. They came to us as a potential partner. They asked us if we could help them. They are just a nonprofit, not a registered charity, so we can't flow money back to them. When I talked to them, they said, we as in Haviland Club would like to raise money. They would like to be able to give people charitable donation receipts for any contributions, but I can't get the money back to them. So in this case, if the city of Charlottetown ever was interested in assisting that property, we would set up a three-way partnership to stipulate exactly what those funds could be used for. Haviland Club would go and raise the money. We would stipulate an agreement that would say they apply to us for the money that they raised. Both of us would sign off on it, being Community Foundation and the City of Charlottetown, based on guidelines that are set in the agreement. And we flow the money back to the city, who then flows it to Haviland Club. Still has to fit within everything you as an organization do and what your guidelines are. Ours are policies, bylaws, grants, contributions, has to fit with you as well. So that's one example. Another very brief one is a recent story. Lawrence Maxwell, is a musician in PEI, recently had some troubles with some flights, and he ended up raising money through a GoFundMe campaign. $8,000 or $9,000 was raised. He wants to donate that back now to establish a program to allow musicians to apply for small grants of $500. We would use Music PEI to flow that money back. Music PEI so it has nothing to do with Lawrence Maxwell or any individual. He's just going to make a donation. The money would flow back to Music PEI, in this case, again, a resident of Charlottetown, I guess we could say, but a non-profit, not a registered charity. Again, we would establish a three-way partnership where Music PEI would apply to us for those funds. We would both sign off on that agreement based on criteria that was established in the agreement, so that the money would flow back again through the city. Final example, just as a brief to give you the scope of various different levels. Charlottetown Minor Hockey has a hockey equipment exchange program. George Hallowell and his brother Chris run that program. I'm sure there are all kinds of times when George and Chris don't have size 3 skates for a kid who needs those skates to play hockey. We could set up an agreement with Charlottetown Minor Hockey Association. Donors could contribute to us, and again, we flow the money to you and then back to Charlottetown Minor Hockey. Just a way to generate a way for people to donate to wonderful causes that just don't happen to be charities. So those are 3 examples from maybe a high level of a Haviland Club, which is a much larger type of endeavor, down to the lower end of, buying some hockey equipment for kids who can't afford to play sport. Your role would simply, and I don't mean simply, your role would be when those recipient organizations apply to us, you would receive, somebody within your organization will receive that same request and sign off on it. Does it fit within what was established in the agreement? Once that's done, we write you a check and you write a check to the organization if it fits within those guidelines. And that's it. It's really just an in and an out of contributions. Questions?
Thank you for that, yes, clarity, Kent.
More comment. I do appreciate the clarification, in simple terms of how it works. And my concerns has nothing to do with if we choose to go with this. It's making sure that it fits within our policies and our guidelines that we just developed for our grants policy would be my first ask. My second would be, is this something that our finance department can take on within the city of Charlottetown, like as extra work, really, when you're thinking about. And the other thing is, like, we'd have to develop some more criteria, because is this just going to be an open thing that we're open ourselves up to say, if you are looking to get money and whatever, I think we'd have to have some specific criteria developed to come back to council to even expand what our existing grants policy would be, to make sure that it's just not a free-for-all. That would be a lot of work for everybody, right? So, and how do we determine who qualifies and who doesn't qualify would be something that I think we have to have discussion about. That was my concern the last time we talked about it. I know the great work that Community Foundation does. But I just want to make sure that we, as a council, are within what we're supposed to do for clarification.
Thank you for that, Councillor McCabe. Anyone else? Councillor Drong, if any?
No, thank you very much, Kent, for coming in and explaining things. This would be a lot on your behalf. You would do the legwork to get it here and go back. So, I'm certainly okay with that. It's quite an undertaking, but I can appreciate someone not being a registered charity like George. How do they access money, right? So, that's great. Thank you very much.
And I think if I can, that's exactly it. We just do this to help really great organizations and causes and things of that nature. So, and I want to be clear, I'm good if we don't do this too. I'm not advocating on behalf of any single organization. I'm saying we can do these and we do them really well. And I think it would help the city in many cases. But I don't have any preconceived notion that we should or should not do it. As you would well know, it has to fit within what you guys do, but we're happy to do it.
Just my own personal comment on it. I think these are two very good examples of the Haviland Club and the Charlottetown Minor Hockey Program and I feel better, I guess, about saying that in that after staff have had time to look at it, and it's staff recommendation in the report here with Kent. I don't know if you realize, but the staff are supporting that. It is something that I think we can partner with it on. And of course, this will also go to council, and if there's agreement there that hopefully you can get to where you're going. And Betty, you'd like to?
Yes, if I could just make a comment. Yes, I agree, Councillor McCabe, that we do have to make sure it fits with our policies. I was seeing this as being donations as opposed to grants. I don't know if we have a donations policy, but certainly if we move forward with this, we will develop a policy specifically for this. And the idea is for each beneficiary of this flow-through process, there would be a specific three-way agreement between the city and the foundation, and the organization receiving the funds.
Thank you, Betty. I think that's exactly perfect. I think it's just so that it's consistent and open and transparent, so that people can partner, call. There's lots of good organizations doing great work that would probably benefit from this opportunity. It's just to have those guidelines so that we're all clear on what that would look like as far as the partnership. I think this is great too. I just think we need to have that piece established.
Okay. Kent, did you want to add anything to that?
One more is it may make it more palatable, but pilot projects are good to test these kinds of things as well. So if that's an option, then we can easily do those. Again, we don't have a preconceived notion of what it would be, but it could be a pilot project with a handful of these, or one or two, or whatever it might look like.
So Yeah, so your suggestion, and I guess, I don't know if it's a staff thing, if that's maybe is something that we can massage before it goes to council, would there be a need to put some, or a value to put some pilot language around what we're recommending to the council on that? Would that be?
I agree with that idea, and we have two that have mentioned so far, so maybe that's a starting point, is to say we'll try it as a pilot project with these two, the Haviland Club and the minor hockey equipment exchange program, and then we can address this again in a year.
And I think that that gives us, gives at least the staff and Betty an opportunity just to see what the work piece is and how much is involved and yeah. So there's no, there's any surprises, then maybe it's got to be reevaluated or, great. All right, that does that, I think. Thank you for coming in, Kent.
We're just not
Excuse me.
limiting ourselves to the two. We had three, did we not?
There were three, but it does not matter. We can put all three of those forward if you so desire, and I can put more language with Betty around those and what they look like so that they stipulate more, but there are three,
Yeah.
but
No, that'd be great.
And Kent, do you have a start and finish date when people can apply? Because I think we could be working on our own donation policy and, I don't know why we have to limit it anyway. If it's not going to be a whole lot of extra work and it's a flow through and we're working on our policy, I don't
Yeah.
like to shut the door if there's good work happening and we can help people.
yeah. I don't think we have to put a stipulated end on anything. We can certainly work through those on a one-off basis for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, once we have our policy, Betty, that'd be great. So I'll move that we push this on to council for approval with the idea that there will be some sort of a donation policy that will come, maybe, would that take a long time, Betty, to develop? Could we have that before we push it to council so that it's not push it to council while waiting for something to be developed, a donation policy? I'm sure there's something somewhere we could look at.
And we're talking January probably, right, for the council piece?
Well, this would mean it won't go to council next week, but it can go to council in the future. To be honest, I don't want to make any promises for January because we have that B word looming over our heads, but as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think if we do it, it just makes sense to do it and have everything in place before you bring it to council looking for approval, because we still need to understand how it's going to work. So if we, I will move it with the understanding there will be some sort of a donation policy attached to it for approval. Do you feel good with that, Bob?
And the pilot kind of language, perhaps?
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks again, Kent. So, moving on to 6B, funds for new constable positions. You've had the committee, the report from Protective Emergency Services, prepared by Chief Brad McConnell, staff recommendation, details. I know this, I understood the mayor to be here. I think he may have wanted to comment on this or whatever. Pardon me?
Do you want to bump it down?
Yeah, okay, yeah, no, that's, yeah, if that's fine, yeah, thank you for that suggestion, Councillor Drong. Well, let's do that. And let's go to 6C, the revised grant bylaw and policy. Manager Betty French. Betty?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we were asked by the committee to go back and look at the bylaw and the policy because some grant requests were coming through for the second time. So the initial piece was to look at changing the language so folks could only make an ask once. A group of different folks who were all from different departments who all worked with grants. We got together and had a look at both the policy and the bylaw. And the original intention when we put this together was to try and to stipulate what kind of grants went where. And we found that it wasn't really working as well as we want it to. So we've changed the bylaw a little bit. So the bylaw is the umbrella piece and the policy is specific, whereas before they were trying to both be umbrella pieces with a couple of exceptions. So the bylaw now covers all grants. The only exception right now is donations. And then at the end, it has the various different programs. So instead of the arts and culture grants and the micro grants being exceptions, they're now listed here as a grant program. And we're changing what was before just called grants to being called community grants. So the idea is that what comes through the finance budget and the finance committee are kind of the grants that don't fit anywhere else. So it is East Lincoln, Cary, but then it's the other like Blooming House and Tremploy and Meals on Wheels, those sorts of grants, and ones that are for an event or arts and culture or Parks and Rec go back to those departments. And I think we got a little bit mixed up last year in that we got this block of money, $500,000 for new grants, because we had a number of new initiatives new grants that were written up as new initiatives, and a lot of them were the arts and culture, but we plunked that whole budget all into finance, and I don't really think that's the best place for it. So that's what we've tried to do, is we've tried to rework the bylaw just a little bit so that it has all the different programs listed. And then in the policy, we specifically call it a community grant policy, and there's a definition for that, and it's reworked there. It does in section, I believe it's 9 of the policy, we've taken out the piece that it used to say requests for support will be considered on an ongoing basis. Advance notice of not less than 30 days will be required to making an application. We've taken those two pieces out, and now it just says to be considered in the city corporate budget, the requester must submit a written request by November 30th of each year for the following fiscal year. There is a proviso elsewhere that refers to, I think it's in both the bylaw and the policy. I don't recall exactly where it is now, where it does say that there will be situations where a grant, the timing or the nature of the grant might fall outside of the policy, and this policy is not meant to preclude those sorts of grants, and that council is able to approve those grants as they see fit. But the idea is that those would be exceptions.
Thank you for that, Betty. Is any questions to Betty on the reworking of the wording, if you will, on the bylaw or policy?
I just want to say thank you, because I think that's what we were looking at, is trying to put everything together under both, and you can't operate that way based on the different departmental needs. So having that umbrella and then breaking it down underneath, it makes much more sense, and I think it's much more open, like transparent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions, Councillor Drown? No, just on the bylaw, Principle 7.1 and then D, Council recognizes that there may be worthy requests which may not fit within this statement of general principles and guidelines. Nothing in the bylaw prevents council from making grants at times and for purposes outside the scope of the bylaw. So I guess is that kind of an example or a piece that you have some, I don't know, wiggle room or the ability to?
That was the exact section I was looking for, Councillor
Yeah, I thought so.
McAleer. And that was my understanding as to why those sections were put in before about requests will be accepted throughout the year, because folks know that there may be times that something comes up the council does want to support. But yes, that is the exception piece in there, exactly.
Thank you for that, Manager Betty.
I will move that, Councillor McAleer, to council for approval of the amended version of the grants bylaw.
You second that? Seconder? Seconded by Councillor Drown. Thank you, Councillor McCabe and Councillor Drown, and thank you, Betty. Staying with our agenda, 6D, Better Transit Report, Manager of Finance, Betty French.
There is a presentation here that's been submitted by Barbara Dilla, my apologies, for her organization, Better Transit Now. She had been invited to attend our external stakeholder budget workshop on the Saturday, but was not able to make it. At the time of our workshop, I was not aware of her having responded to us, but apparently she did, and that email went awry. So she wanted folks to know that, yes, she did respond, but she was out of town and couldn't make it. She was invited to this meeting, but wasn't able to make that as well either. So she has submitted her presentation here for your perusal. I don't know that she has a specific ask in it, but she wanted to highlight the work of this organization.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Betty. I can't understand, like, she submitted this, you know, is there a group, or is it herself? You know, she sends this presentation, Charlottetown can expect personal car usage to increase if transit remains underfunded, undervalued, and overlooked. I mean, it's pretty easy to say those words, but you look at what the city has done. We've purchased land. We're going to build a depot. We purchase electric buses. Like, what more can we be expected to do here? Like, I think, is it one person's view that we're not doing enough? I've certainly, since I've been here, the bus service has grown in leaps and bounds. I think council has provided budgets, when they're looking for new routes, new buses, new ways of doing business. I just can't understand how a person can send this in and say the things that they're saying. We have a consultant, we have a direction of an owner. Like, I looked at the presentation and I said, well, I was ready to ask questions today, and the person's not here. I'm very disappointed when someone throws it in and it has all these accusations that we're not doing enough, and I believe that we're going above and beyond. I mean, I drive home at night or drive on University Avenue, the amount of people using the bus, even where I live, they're waiting out at 7 o'clock in the morning for the bus service. I think it's a great service. And, the staff should be commended instead of looking at this when it tries to tear us down. But that's my opinion. But thank you for moving it forward here. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Drung. I know in reading Barbara's presentation and report, last night, there was a lot of it that seemed to me that we're, addressing, in a lot of way, and you just spoke to it yourself there, Councillor Drung. I think we have a study that's being done. Am I right, as we speak? That's a deep dive on a transit study. So. Again, none of these things are things that that can't be improved, and there's always going to be, I guess, advice and comments from people, and I guess that's what the presenter has, I guess, just trying to put in front of us. So, anyway, we'll thank her for her report, and we have it on file. That's Betty?
Is there any interest in inviting her to come in to a later meeting? No? Another year, maybe?
No, like I said, the report kind of sums it up. I just can't understand, what was the benefit of it, right? Like, we're doing as much as we can, but when you look at a report, I mean, I guess she feels that there's a lot more that can be done. but we're doing, I think, as much as physically possible here in giving the budget money and accessing as much as we can. I mean, but that's her opinion, and I guess, you know, she's entitled to her opinion, but I just can't see the city budget being able to do more than what we're actually doing. And I'm just thinking to myself, when we passed this a month or two ago, or three, whatever we did, that's quite an undertaking to buy a place, I think for 3 million, and it's looking at another 17 or 20 some million to buy it, put in the electric buses. Like, I don't know much more we can be expected to do with this, so. I guess, like the chair said, she has her opinion. She sent it in that we could be doing more, but, you know, in reality, I don't know myself, but, you know, I've read the report and I appreciate it, but thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Scott.
All right, Councillor McCabe.
Yep, thank you. And I do believe that there's a little, there is a working group who are actively, you know, promoting and pushing the transit. I don't think it's an individual person. I know I've had lots of people who are really passionate about the transit system and wanting it to go, but I completely agree with Councillor Duran. It is part of our strategic plan. We have prioritized transit. We are doing what we can. You know, maybe we need to do better communication so people really understand, as a full-service municipality that can't operate in a deficit budget, we are doing the very best we can with the tax dollars we create to provide the best services we can within that means. So, you know, I don't know, maybe we can put that into a committee area or a council discussion for better explanation. You know, Councillor Duran's right. You read that and it comes off as negative, like people feel we're not doing enough. But I agree, we're doing a whole lot, and we will continue. Always can do better, but we're working hard at doing the best we can with what we got.
Sentiments are pretty clear on that, so let's, unless there's anything else on that, okay. Going to 6E, monthly financial statements, capital update report. Betty, if you could take us through your great page and numbers and updates. Well done. If you'd like to kind of take us through the high points, and if there's Councillor Drong or McCabe have questions, I'm sure you'll do your best to respond to them.
The monthly, thank you, Mr. Chair. The monthly financial statements were sent out separately, and you also got a paper copy today. We're sort of challenged at the moment trying to keep up with payroll. We had payroll posted a little bit late because we're not quite getting what we need just yet out of the new payroll system, but we're pretty close on that. So this is 7 months to the end of October, and things are looking on track. If you have any particular questions, I would be happy to entertain those. And the capital report is there in your package as well. And I know folks are moving ahead with their projects as they can, and as tenders go out and as they can get things in place. There is still quite a lot of budget money left to be spent, but I know some of these projects certainly were at the outset intended to be more than 1 year projects, so that's probably what skews it to a certain extent.
Yeah, and just on a couple of the big ticket things, like Simmons is no surprises there. I mean, it's over its original budget for a number of good reasons, I believe. But and then the other is Eastern Gateway got started, and there's only probably a small part of what was expected to be completed on that, and this year that's only going to be spent. Is that correct?
I don't have a lot of details on the plans for those. I know some of them have been put on hold and will be done in the next year, but we are close to getting into the capital budget, and that will tell us a lot more about what's being carried forward. And we are working towards having a 5-year plan in our capital budget this year that will lay out more specifically the years that the spending is planned for. Whereas last year, we put all the spending for a particular project into 1 year. But I think that will give us more information. And what I would like to do in this report as well is to start to build in additional columns that, for instance, would say, maybe even combine this report with the next one, the one on the RFPs and tenders. We can have in here when a particular project has gone out to tender and when the tender is closed, because some of that timing will help let us know when the planned expenditure is. So it looks right now like there's lots of money left to be spent, but I'm sure there's a plan for all of it.
Yeah, just in general, Councillor Drong or Councillor McCabe, any comments? Do you like the format that Betty and her team have put together for what we're looking at?
Absolutely. I always appreciate being updated with where we are, and yeah, I think she's doing a great job.
Okay, all right. Okay, yeah. Well, no, 6F, tendering RFPs, RFQs. Betty?
This is just provided for information to let you know where we are at with our latest tenders.
There's any questions of Betty on those? No, all right. So, all right, Councillor McCabe and Ron, we're going to loop back to 6B. Funds for new constables. There's a fair bit of detail in there, report detail from Chief Brad McConnell. The funding. This was something Mayor Brown was suggested at the committee level back 4 meetings ago now, I guess. So we have it in front of us here now as a budget ask, and probably be going to council. I just wonder at the committee level here, is there still the same support for this request to go on to council? Does it meet the blessing of Councillor Drong? You want to speak to that?
Yeah, I certainly agree with the police and how under, I don't know if it's not the word I was looking for, how I guess our city is growing in leaps and bounds, and I think the police department has to grow with it. I mean, we're getting calls that they can't answer because there's a backup in the queue, that they have so many calls. I've talked to police officers. So I'm certainly can forward this on to council for a discussion, and then when the chief is there at the meeting, there can be further discussions. Where are we going? With I guess it comes back to the outreach center and the policing of that, and the province. Are we getting extra officers there? I feel, I guess we have to make progress in moving forward and getting funding for officers, but again, it has to come with a condition that they're able to do their job. I mean, if we get 6 people to come in to help out and they can't do their job in a manner that they're sworn in to do, then there's an issue with that, and we go back to the federal initiative of not to crack down on possession. So if we get 6 or 16, how are we going to curb that issue that we have? I know in this year's budget hit from January to March, it's not as much as what 6 officers would do next year or the year after. It's going to be increased, right? So it's going to be a big cost to the city, but if we need it, it's our job to do what's best for the city and to move it forward. So instead of me rambling on, I'll certainly move it and hope that our committee can put it up to council for a better discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Drown. Councillor McCabe.
Thank you. I agree. I think we know we're growing. We know that we have huge mental health and drug issues in our city. We've been told that they're struggling even to get cadets to do the training, let alone then, we have to be able to offer them something to draw them because we're short. Being responsible for public safety, we do have to work with our partners to kind of ensure that the role of the police officer. There's people that sit, they can't go out to the hospital with a patient, and if they're not seen right away, our officers are stuck sitting and emerge for, 8-9 hours. Some of those things, I think we have to start looking at how we can partner better on some of the liabilities. Our world is based on liabilities today, which makes it really challenging when you're trying to resource that. But just for knowledge around police presence alone is important. Sometimes it's just a natural thing that happens when there's actual presence of police. And I do think, I'm looking forward to hearing more, how are we going to improve that at the presence? Are they going to be actually located in certain spots? How are we rolling this out? Right now, the report says we're 29 police officers short. We're looking to hire 6, which means we have 23 more to fill before we even get to complement. So I'm certainly in support of making sure that this is another priority that we set.
So I'll just wind that up, or unless there's something else that either yourself, Councillor Drown and McCabe, wish to add. That let's move this on to council and see where it goes. Just Betty, I don't know if I'm doing my math wrong, but on the report, financial implications, it says 261,230. I thought I added it up last night. It says not including benefits, but anyway, the math I did, I think it does include benefits, but I don't know if I. Anyway, you can.
Yes, I tried to update the report. I see one place I didn't put it in. I added in another $40,000 for benefits. So the 221,000 that Brad had in, not including benefits, the 261, my apologies, that should be including benefits. And
Correct.
I got that information from HR, yes.
Yeah, okay, great. So my math was right. Great.
And Councillor McLeod, that extraordinary fund, is there that money in the extraordinary fund? Like that there is money for that?
There's money for that in the extraordinary expenses this year, but we would have to build that
Budget
into
it
the budget
For
for
moving
next year.
forward?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Introduction to new business. Any new business? Okay. 8, adjournment. Motion to adjourn. So moved. Seconded. Julie McCabe, Councillor Drown, seconded. Thank you. And good day.